maybe change it, and he will do something better.
Okay. So for your life, just curious, like when you think about your life and like whatever the path is supposed to be, how do you know? Like on a road, it's easy to know if you're going off the road, right? Crossing the yellow lines or going into a curve, it's easy to know you're either on the road or not on the road. But when it comes to like life, it's sometimes I think harder to do that. So like, how do you know if you're like on the right path for your life? Yeah. So are you guys buddies then? Yeah. So here was the question. So we're sitting around here talking random and weird question. And the question was, do you think life has purpose and design, or is it mostly like accident and randomness? So your accident and randomness, he was like purpose and design. You have the guy on the end? Do you think life has purpose and design, or is it much more like randomness and accident?
You can make it with purpose and design. You can make it have purpose and design.
But it starts with randomness and chaos, but you can bring purpose and design. Is that what you're saying? Is that your thoughts? What about you? What's that? So, your buddy, you're outnumbered, man. So are you guys related or are you guys friends? Just friends? So he was saying that life ultimately is designed and has purpose and a plan. And then I guess what you might...
So like destiny, fate?
Yeah, like maybe some of that. But like, because like the two worldviews, like if in your world, life has purpose and a plan, but when you get off plan, it creates chaos. In your world, life has chaos, but you can create purpose and plan out of chaos. Is that what you're saying? Kind of like that?
Exactly.
But he's like stumped. He's like, that's not what I thought that... So why'd you think he would say purpose and plan? Yeah, why'd you think he would say it?
He's always talking about how like everything happens like for an accident and stuff.
Yeah, but
Like-
plan things really the same way.
We're talking about life. No,
We're talking about, first of all, like life in general. Like, do you think, like, the big picture of life, does life have purpose? Does life have a plan in the big picture? And then, like, individually, does it transfer to you personally? Like, is there a plan for your life? A purpose, or like you said, a destiny?
Because like I've been studying astronomy, so
Yeah.
I get to see like the galaxies and
Yeah.
what's beyond what we can see.
Right?
And so like we're just a small speck in this solar system. in
Yeah,
this
small's a
big
generous word.
galaxy.
It's like, we're smaller than small.
Yeah. So like to say that we're the only human or like only intelligent life
Right?
is crazy. Because there's we recently found some planets outside the solar system that
Right.
may contain life.
Right? That it's possible?
What if some life occurred there, intelligent
Right.
life with their own civilizations?
Well, that's interesting. See, like you added a dimension to it where you said with their own God. So, like, if there was a different planet, you think that it would have maybe its own, like if there was a planet with other intelligent life, like that would have its own God as well?
Like,
Maybe?
like in ancient times, we all had our own gods,
Right?
Norse gods, mythological.
Yeah, all the different gods of the Greek gods, Roman gods, Norse gods, yeah.
But because of we looked at the stars, like we had no idea what was going on.
Right, right.
Just we created something.
So that's obviously more shapes your worldview. And then what about you? Do you believe like what he just said is true or not so
I'm
much?
kind of atheist.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay. But you said you're kind of atheist. What does that
I mean,
mean?
I am atheist.
Okay, I'm just making sure I understood what you meant. Because I thought like kind of atheist is like being kind of pregnant. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how you're kind of pregnant. Right?
I'm more like Catholic and Christian.
Okay.
That's why I kind of thought like we agree with me.
Oh, because you thought he would be more like leaning towards the God factor. Because obviously if you believe there is a God, like a God, not just like a bunch of like mythological gods, but like there's one God, then you're more inclined to believe that life ultimately can have a plan and a purpose. That makes sense. But if you deny that, then obviously it doesn't make sense to believe in plan and purpose.
You don't need a religion to have morals and
Of course.
good or bad.
Sure. So that brings us to another question we had that was also a random and weird personal question, but only because of what you just said. So we were just asking the question, and this will be maybe tougher for you a little bit, but we were just asking, if God exists and God's supposed to be good, how do you explain all the evil in the world? Like, what's your best explanation for why there's so much like evil in the world if God is supposed to be, all powerful and all good? Have you ever thought about that?
Maybe the evil, like, maybe God allows it as a test, like to see who's good and who's bad.
That makes sense a little bit. So you think that God might allow it just to see kind of how people react to it?
Yeah, like to see who he can bring for heaven. who
Okay.
stays bad.
Interesting. What do you think about that?
I see it as well, nature I think has to have good and bad. It's like there's different
When you say nature has to have good and bad, what do you mean?
The food web, like there's like the carnivores.
Right. Okay.
Like you don't.
In the food chain.
Something has to die. Sort of
Right. Like that chicken had to die for you to eat Chick-fil-A. Right? Nothing evil about Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is all good. Right?
like poverty and all that. In third world countries. I think
Right.
that it's. I'm not saying it's necessary or
Right.
that it's we can prevent it.
Obviously,
We can
we can impact poverty, we can impact, famine, right? Like governments can impact that to some degree.
And so much greed.
There's so much of that stops it, yeah?
And like, I feel like there has to be a balance. Like, if there isn't like hurricanes and other storms,
Right.
like, people are gonna live more, so it's gonna get more populated.
So, some degree, the earthquakes, the natural disasters kind of help just the natural population, right? Okay. So for you, because you said that you are an atheist, you've obviously given some thought to the whole question about God. Because you weren't always an atheist, were you? So
When I was little, I went to church and stuff, but I never really bought into it.
didn't make sense to you. What do you think is the biggest reason why being an atheist makes the most sense? Like for you, what's the best argument for atheism?
I'm not saying it makes it's perfect.
No, I understand. Like what makes it make sense for you?
Is that like once I started into astronomy, like I looked at the whole universe,
Yeah.
how vast and grand it is.
Yeah.
And so like how can there be a God? We're just
Yeah.
we're special.
Yeah, why is this one little speck in the universe such a special place?
And then also I think that sometimes the Bible doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's 357 days and that.
So there's either some specific things in the Bible that you just couldn't wrap your head around,
Yeah,
or
because it was written like a long time ago.
a little bit, yeah.
Y'all religious.
Well, so we're part of a group that meets together every Monday, and we talk about spiritual things. I actually was raised atheist myself, so like I grew up really just believing that atheism made the most sense. My mom was like a really strong atheist. My dad was like a non-practicing Catholic, so he was like not really devout or not really religious, and so atheism was just kind of the way our household ran. And then something traumatic happened in my house that kind of turned the tide and changed the direction a little bit and made me start to question,
I'm not saying that religion is bad,
No, I see that.
but people are sometimes people who are too religious can prevent others from learning facts.
Yeah, right.
Science.
I agree. Yeah. So, in your case, if you were given evidence or good reasons for believing that God existed, are you the kind of atheist who would ignore good evidence and good reasons because you just have set your mind? Or would you say, if someone could give me really good evidence or really good reasons, I'd be open to it, I just haven't heard good evidence and good reasons?
I'd be open to it.
You would be. Yeah. There you go. And what about the guy in the end, the quiet guy eating? I didn't catch you guys' names. I didn't mean to be rude. I'm Brian. I'm John. Felipe. Mario. Pleasure, man. John. Yeah. So Mario, Felipe, and Brian. How long you guys known each other? How was that? Since elementary. That's a long time. Since you were 5 or 6 years old.
We're not seniors.
And then when did you guys meet? Oh, so still a while ago. And you guys all like live in the same area and stuff? Yeah. So, like I said, what we're doing right now is just asking some of these like really random and weird questions about life. Because I think if you don't ever ask them, like you could literally go like a month or a year and not even think about these things. But like if God is real, it's kind of important, right? If God's not real, it's not that important.
This is also how I think about it.
Yeah.
I'd say that God isn't real, but we believe in Him, right?
Yeah.
Life finishes, we lose nothing. And we're believing in Him. So let's say He is real. If you don't believe in Him, you won't be able to enter heaven.
Right.
You will lose everything.
Yeah, it's a pretty big gamble, right? Yeah. What do you think about that, Felipe? So yeah, it's actually what he said is actually, there's a name for what you just said. It's called the Pascalian wager. It's after a guy named Blaise Pascal. Blaise Pascal was a mathematician who was actually the founder of the way of thinking that created computers. So you know how when you were saying earlier that a lot of Christians or people with a lot of religious belief suppress science? A lot of atheists don't know this, but some of the greatest scientists early in life, you know, years ago, were Christians. Like Blaise Pascal is a Galileo. Yeah, exactly. The guy. Yeah. So, in fact, the guy who founded Harvard Law is a Christian.
I think there's a difference between believing in God and then like believing in God to a point where like you should teach the Bible instead of teaching
Versus,
the science sort of.
Oh right. Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you.
Like scientists knew how to like still believe in it, but still go on.
Practice science. Yeah.
People believe in Him.
Yeah.
He became like one of the greatest scientists.
Well, I'm not sure who was
Yeah. Einstein, by most people, well, he used God a lot in his references when he talked about the way the world worked and the way the reality is, you know. So he referenced God a lot. So that's why a lot of people say that he believed in God, because he talked about God as an explanation of certain things, you know. But so this is interesting. So I'm curious for all three of you guys. Like for you, the question of God, like if God is really real, if you believe that, and then you also believe that God might have a plan for your life, how does that affect you on a daily level? Like just in your normal daily life? Is that something you might think about? Not really so much. Do you think about it all, Brian?
I mean, sometimes, yeah. You know, sometimes I'm just like, not doing nothing.
Right.
I'm just like,
Alone in your thoughts. That's when it'll come to you. Yeah. And Felipe, for you, the question of God, if God was real and could be known as real, like you could really, really know, like how do you think that might affect your life if you came to believe that? What do you think that would change? Yeah, like if you decided like the evidence was so much, because you're obviously talking about science, so you believe in evidence, right? You're a rational dude, right? So you like logic and reason, yeah? So if you came to believe that with conviction, that it was true, as real as you believe I'm sitting here talking to you, that God was actually real, how do you think that would affect your life?
I guess I would start believing in it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, after you die, you don't really know what to expect.
Right.
You know, there's an afterlife, or if you're born,
Yeah.
so, you know, I guess you have to try to
would you agree with this? That if you believe that God was real, that it would be reasonable to then want to find out what you can believe about God? Like, the concept of God is very generic. But if you came to believe that God was real, then trying to know more about God would make sense, right? Like, what can you know about him? Like if he has a plan for your life, probably want to know what that is, right? If he has like guidelines for how to live, probably want to know what they are, right? You know, it's almost, you know what I'm saying? Like, you probably want to know that. That just seems to me like a very reasonable thing. Almost like, like as an example, if you found out you had a rich uncle who was a billionaire, and you were supposed to be in his will, you probably, like, the moment you found out that you had a rich billionaire uncle who died, you'd probably want to know what's his name, where does he live, when is the will being read, right? Am I in the will, right? What does he say, right? You'd want to know. So it's kind of the same thing, right? So what we're doing, and I want to invite you guys, if you don't mind, I'm like, obviously we've already interrupted your meal a little bit, but if you guys want to, we're talking about some of this, and what I was about to share with them, and this, Felipe, might be interesting to you specifically, but I think also for you, Brian, and for Mario, really, but we're about to talk about some of the really good evidences or reasons why you can really believe with certainty and confidence that God exists. Because a lot of even people who believe, if I ask you, you know, what's the best evidence you have? Like, almost everybody who would say, like, I don't know, I just believe. You know, like, it's personal. I don't really have like a lot of evidence, but I believe it.
Like, for me,
yeah.
Like, whenever I'm going through something like tough or like dramatic, and like I pray, I feel better. Like peace. I guess.
Right.
I feel peace.
Absolutely. So, like, that answer is obviously very meaningful to you, but to your buddy, that answer is probably not that meaningful, right? Because that's not really good evidence for him, right? That's kind of like if you said, for me, Rocky Road ice cream is the best ice cream. It's like, he's going to be like, okay, cool. If you like Rocky Road, that's great, but that doesn't affect my life, right?
I feel something inside telling me that it's going to be okay.
No, I hear you. I agree. But, like, are you familiar with any good evidence? Like, have you ever been presented, like, good evidence for God? What's that?
We believe in God because we're smarter than any other species in the world. Or do you think that there's a
Are you saying, sorry, just to ask the question again, are you asking me if I believe that God has a plan for humans specifically, or a plan for all of creation? I think that's a really cool question, actually. Yeah, I agree with you there. I think animals don't really have a soul. You know, like, they don't have a self like we do. So they don't have something that they can relate to that on that level. So that's why, like, I think when you kill a chicken, you're not murdering a chicken, right? Like, when a shark, for example, attacks, like, you know, a seal or something. When a shark attacks a seal, it's not murdering the seal, right? Because the seal doesn't really have a soul, right? Like, you could murder somebody, like a person, but you can't even murder like a dog. You can kill a dog, but you can't murder a dog, right? There's not the same. What's that?
How do you know?
Well, so that's actually a really smart question too.
Just like in our brains, because it's so complex.
Right. No, that's legit. So, yeah. We whether we like it or not, we respond to moral inputs, right? We make moral judgments. Like, when we lie, we know we're lying, and we know we probably shouldn't lie, but we decide the benefit of lying is better than not lying, so we choose to lie in the moment. Whether it's self-preservation or trying to take advantage of something we want, we lie, right? Or when we steal, if we ever steal something, like, even if it's downloading music, you know, if we steal, we know we're, like, not supposed to do it, but we kind of do it anyway, because in the moment we decide that I'd rather have the music downloaded than pay for it. I'd rather keep my money and get the music, but that's a moral judgment we make, right? But, like, when a monkey steals an orange from another monkey, you know, he doesn't have the same moral accountability, you know, in the grand scheme of things. So, you know, that's interesting. But, so Felipe, I was asking you though, as far as like good evidence for why you believe that God could exist, have you ever been given any good evidence? Has anybody ever tried to show you evidence? What kind of evidence have you been shown? Yeah, like what kind of evidence has anybody tried to show you about God? What do you mean?
That's a gift.
Okay, life itself.
Like the possibilities of us being in the world.
Yeah.
Galaxy, there could be about 100,000 planets, 100 billion planets, and about 100 of them life. And so
You gotta look it up. It's basically impossible to have another planet. Like everything plays a role. Like, for example, Jupiter is a bigger planet. It
Right.
attracts more comets.
That's right.
You would have hit it.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, obviously, it's obviously really hard to say that it's impossible for there to be another life-giving planet. That's hard to say.
6 years ago,
Yeah,
Earth has been here for about 4 billion years.
right,
And we recently just came into the picture.
right. So here's an interesting idea that has to do with the cosmos. So I think you'll really like it. It's one of the arguments for God. Okay, and the argument goes like this. It says this: that anything which begins to exist has a cause for its existence. Anything that begins to exist has a cause for its existence. So that would be true of my phone, this table, the shirt you're wearing, right? You yourself. And the cause, whatever that cause is outside or separate from the thing that began to exist. So everything which begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. So therefore the universe has a cause, right? And if you study astronomy, you know that the universe includes all of space, time, matter, and energy. It's all within the universe, right? So if that's true, here's the question, Felipe. If the universe began to exist and the universe has a cause, the cause has to be a cause that is spaceless, timeless, immaterial, and extremely powerful because it created all of space, time, matter, and energy. So what's the best explanation for the universe? Huh?
No one knows.
What's that?
No one knows.
But I'm asking you, I'm not saying you have to know, I'm just saying what do you think the best explanation is? Yeah, okay. Oh, she's gonna pick you up right now? Yeah. But you see what I'm saying? Because if you think about it, if the explanation of the universe has to be spaceless, timeless, and immaterial, and extremely powerful, because it actually creates all of space, time, matter, and energy, then the explanation can't have space, time, matter, or energy as part of it. It can't be material. It has to be immaterial. It has to by definition. Which means what you're left with, my friend, is something spaceless, timeless, immaterial, and extremely powerful, which is a lot of things people use when they use the word God. Make sense? Hey, if you guys have an iPhone on you?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you like an app you can check out. Is that okay? If you download this app, go to your app store real quick. If you like this kind of stuff, was your dinner good, man? All right, go to the app store and type in RZI. That's the top one there. I am. Yeah. This is a guy who explains stuff. Hit get. Yeah. He answers all these kind of tough questions. So I'll give you that one, and then I'll give you one more that you'll really like too. And type in hold case. No space. Yeah, Christianity. There it is. Yeah. Check that out. If you check those out, there's a lot of this kind of stuff on there because you're asking the right questions, my friend. But there's a layer deeper I would ask you to go because I think you're on the right path with the way you're thinking, but there's another level of depth, and I would encourage you, especially as a Christian who wants to be able to answer some of these questions. Right? Thank you. Pleasure to meet you guys. All right.